Hi everyone, welcome to Conway Castle. There's a few moody clouds in the sky, as you can see, but it's supposed to be a nice day. So I'm rowing over to the boat now. Let's go off for a little sail. Just stopped for a quick brew with me bro. Just arrived at the boat to check how well my fishing net's doing at keeping the seagulls off, and it's pretty clean. One has been, but that's about it. So I think that's pretty good. Well, ship shape now. Line's ready. Everything ready to go. Dinghy just tied to the bow, so I'll just let that cast off on its own as I drop the bow. Now, so let's start the motor and see if we can get things going. Pick the revs up a little bit and just check that the water's pumping out the side. Yep. Well, it's just about the top of tide and the boats are stuck on the buoys, and the wind, unfortunately, well, that seems to be coming down the river, and we're supposed to have a westerly, and that's definitely a northerly, but I'm sure it's just a land shaping it, following the coast around. Well, time to say goodbye to the dinghy and cast off. Leave the dinghy stuck to the mooring so I can get ashore when I get back, because I'm going to come back the same day. I'm just going for a little day sail, so let's let that go. I have to make sure now that I don't slip with the wind blowing me onto the dinghy and cause it any damage or anything, or shove it under my bow as I slide past. So I'll throw it in the stern to give it a bit of slack, and hopefully it'll pop out the bow happily, just like that. Let's do a quick check around, make sure I've still got sea room, no boats creeping up on me or buoys. Well, that was a success. Dinghy away, time to go. Wind's mostly on the nose and it keeps changing from which side, so I've just got the mainsail up to give me a bit of lift when it fills in. A bit of lift going down here, along with the engine. Tide's neutral at the moment, it's just about to turn. As you can see, the boat is facing sideways ahead and behind me. Hopefully we get out on this beautiful day. Well, it is a westerly when I get outside, and as I'm going to travel west for a bit along the voyage, I'm not going to have much drive from my sails, so that's going to be a bit rattly for a bit unless I put her away, which, as long as it don't get too noisy, I probably won't. Anyway, tide is going to start moving more or less with us, but very slowly. So we've got nothing against us besides the wind, so we should motor out the voyage quite quickly. And I'll only get so far out, and I'll make a turn towards Puffin up there. There's already boats out having a play, and I want to join them. Somebody passing my way. There might be something going on, a little bit of a race between some local boats or not, I don't know. Not paying enough attention to things probably. But here we go. We've got the wind, we've turned into it. We've got a couple of knots of it as well. So as you heel, something always falls on the floor that you're having tied down or put in a safe place. Anyway, that's a good heel. There's a couple of good little waves in that one, knocking them out the way. That should get everything loose off the shelves, I should imagine. There's more air out here than I thought it was actually going to be. But still nice for a day sail, eh? Sun's shining, wind's blowing, sea's fairly flat, can't get any better than that. Well, I've not actually decided I'm going anywhere. I've just decided that I'm going to sail fairly close to the wind for an hour or so. Maybe an hour and 5, I don't know. And see what happens. Just enjoy myself, get out and have a splash around. And that's what I'm doing, having a splash around. Have a play with the sails, try different things. See if I can teach myself anything. It's always good when you teach yourself something. I haven't got every bit of sail up. I've got a twirl in the front sail, so I've not fully canvassed, but then there is 18 knots out there. I'm doing 4 something into it, and it's fairly much accurate at the moment because we're top of tide really. So until it actually starts turning and coming with us, and I think the maximum I can get today in the mid of the tide is an extra knot with me. So what I'm going to see all the way up to that point is give or take a knot. And the cooker's the only thing that's not heeling. The boat's well heeled. And that's Pip behind me. I think he's going to come and catch me and overtake me. And you see him just there behind. I'm trying to zoom in, but it's focusing on the rope so we can't see him. If I move over here, will it get him? Nope, nope, nope. Well, he's there anyway. He don't follow on. And I decide I'll put a reef in. Because she was getting, gunnels were getting a little bit close to the water. Not that I'm worried about the gunnels getting wet at all. I just think it maybe helps leeway if you got too much heel. But I wasn't noticing much in the way of leeway either. So I put the first reef in, or where I deem the first reef to be on the main. And it's neutralised the helm a little bit. The helm's not doing anything, not causing any drag, which we like. And the boat's still slipping along just as quickly as it was before, so it's probably a good idea to have the reef rather than have a slightly overpowered stern and a slightly weather helm causing a little bit of drag. Everything just equals out now, and I suppose there's less pressure on the rig as well. But she's going nice enough. I like it when she's splashing going into the waves. Especially when I've got nowhere to go and I'm just playing. See how close I can get her to the wind. She's obviously a lot closer this year to the wind than she ever has been before. So that's why I'm playing with her. I've got a tacking angle that I can look at as well. If I play back my track later, and I play back the track on the AIS, so that you can actually see it properly because it's recorded along the way. We're doing 5 knots into it at the moment. We could have quarter to half a knot, so we're still supposedly doing about 4.5 knots. But that's fair enough. 4.5 knots into it is decent. It's got a little bit of a chop on it. If it was flat water, I'd expect maybe 5 then at these conditions, but if it's got a little bit of a bump in it, you can lose half a knot to silly waves. And the cooker's still straight. And the helm's still straight. And what I really need to know is my leeway straight? I'm sure I've got a couple of degrees, but it's nothing excessive. There's a funny swell in the water, but not much in the way of waves, just the odd little bumpy ones. A little bit of backwinding on my mainsail there. I eased the sheet a little bit to centralise the helm. Slowed the boat down a little bit as well, it did. I'm beginning to think Swallow actually likes a bit of weather helm, because I've let the full foresail out now, and although she's heeled a bit more, she doesn't seem to be doing anything wrong, and I'm up to 6 knots there nearly. So I know I haven't got nowhere near a knot yet because it's only in the first hour, just over. So I'm probably actually doing over 5 knots, which is quite decent. But that is producing a little bit of weather helm now to get to those over 5 knots into the wind. And I don't normally do 5 knots with the wind, let alone into the wind. So marvellous things are happening. And those gunnels are actually quite close to the water for a change, aren't they? And that wave nearly got my camera. Well, actually, it's not my camera, it's my phone. I can stare at the bow breaking the waves, even the blurry waves that I've got at the moment, and they shouldn't be blurry because it's a posh camera phone. The transom's not blurry, and my silent transom's still creeping out the water quite well there, and that's how well my sails are set. That's a fairly decent camber line for going into the wind, and it's on the outside. What's that boat that's just passed me over there? I'll have to try and zoom in. He cut across the back of me to Beneteau. They're quite good at going to windward, but he's just off the wind. Get a little bit of flutter on the top of his sail there a little bit. Oh, and he's having a nice bounce as well. Well, I've altered my course 10 degrees to starboard to see if I can keep up with that boat. Because obviously if you pay a little bit off the wind, the boat picks up a bit. And Swallow's doing very well. So I'll sit on this for half an hour to an hour and see how long he stays there, or if he just pulls away and leaves me behind. I've let all my sails out because he's got all his sails out, and I want to see if I'm sort of evenly matched or not. I plan on staying upwind of him and not going towards him, and so that it's sort of an even run as best I can get it. And I think Swallow's not doing too bad at the moment. I think she's pulling really well, even to windward, which she doesn't normally do, as you know, but she is doing it today, isn't she? I definitely think it's one of the nicer things about sailing, that you can go and do nothing, not know where you're going, not know what you're going to do, and just go out, get a bit of a shake. See if you can teach yourself something. Well, I can teach myself that I can press my boat as much as the next man, and she seems to behave quite well. I took a bearing about 20 minutes ago, and that bearing hasn't changed. If anything, actually, I'd have probably said I've got a degree in hand now. And I'm not actually saying I'm catching a Beneteau. I didn't actually say that. I just said I might have a degree in hand, which means maybe the surface of the water's shifted a little bit. I don't know. But I'm certainly doing very well in my own mind at the moment, or should I say Swallow's doing very well in my own mind. I mean, she's just ploughing on and pushing her way through that water like there's no effort through it whatsoever. She's just continuously whacking away in. I'm curious now to how much wind we've got and what kind of speed we've got. We've got 15 knots of wind, and as you can see, it's almost a reach I'm on at the moment now. But we are doing 6.5 knots, and there's not a knot with us, so that we're doing clearly well over 5 knots, at least 5.5 to windward, which is pretty damn good. Well, I just said, looking at where this Beneteau's lying, it's Beneteau good. Now, she might only be a small Beneteau, and maybe a 27-foot Beneteau would have disappeared by now, but I'm not sure what size she is. I'm sure someone's going to tell me. But you can see, we're still banging in a performance. Well, as luck would have it, I stayed with him with no problems whatsoever, so I think I'm fairly evenly paced with whatever that was. Now, I've reduced my sails, because I want a cup of tea and I need a little break. So, I've changed my direction, I've changed my sail plan completely, everything's reduced down, slowed the boat down, I'm going inland a bit, which changes the wave set as well, makes the boat a bit smoother. I've depowered the boat a hell of a lot so she stands up, because obviously I want to put the kettle on now and I need to go for the Jimmy Riddle. And it's also, oh what a gorgeous day. The moody skies disappeared and put this beautiful sky up there with a big ball of sun in it. So, cup of tea on the brew. Very important. Boat still slipping along lovely, but obviously it's a lot more comfortable on the inside to make a brew. Speed over the ground's just over 4 knots, but we have started going into the little bit of tide that we have, and we have got a reduced sail plan. So we're still probably at least doing 4.5 knots. On our reduced sail plan, on a comfortable motion to make this, which is the most important thing at this moment in time. Oh, and that 4.5 to 5 knots that we're making is coming from 20 knots of wind that's ahead of us, or 18 knots of wind that's ahead of us. But it's still there. We've got the reduced plan and we're pushing along quite happily. So that's good going, that. Decent going. No one can complain at that. And I certainly am not going to complain at it, because the boat's still in a comfortable motion. And the canvas is still set fairly well, although they've got a little bit of flutter on both those leeches. Should I go and pull that bit of string a little bit? I don't think I'll bother. I think I'll sit up here and enjoy my cup of tea, watching these waves coming towards me. Only little waves on this side, because as we get closer to the shore, obviously the sea's getting a little bit flatter because it's coming off the land, and I don't think that flutter's that bad. It's not one that you can hear and drives you mad that way. Well, I've tacked, and it was a useful tack really, getting a little bit closer inland, because as you can see, the waves are quite tiny in here, although they still make us bounce a little bit because I hit them hard, because we're still doing a little bit of speed into them. But they're a lot better here than they were out there. And there's still plenty of wind here as well, even with my reefed sails, so we've still got a bit of a heel on. The high side seems very high. I reckon if I look over the side, I reckon it's 6 or 7 foot all the way down to the water. But I think I might keep the reduced sail plan at the moment, because we're not racing the Beneteau anymore, and it is quite comfortable, because that 22 knots could become 24 knots or 26 knots along here, because the wind does pick up a little bit, as you've seen in the previous videos, towards Red Wharf Bay. For some reason it channels out of there and flies along. And we've got quite a good heel on at the moment. Well, I'm going to curl in towards here, which is Mulvra, and that means I'm almost pinching here. I'm as tight as I can be. Look how bar tight the bottom of that sail is, and it's inside the shroud. I've got it inside the shroud because that way I can make a little bit better. Now my wake is showing me that I've got an okay leeway, not a mad leeway, so I'm quite happy to keep going on at this. And this is a plan I'm going to use a little bit more in the future, pulling the sheet inside, because she seems to go quite well to windward with the sheeted side. And even though she's heeled a lot more when I'm doing it now, I find, and this is the lesson I'm teaching myself, she'll go better to windward like this. With a reduced sail tucked closer in, it makes me think I should have a jib just for windward work, not a genoa. Something that I can sheet in tight all the time. Maybe that's where I keep going wrong, genoas. Anyway, she's moving lovely. The water's getting flatter and flatter now as we go along, so you can stand on any part of the deck and she's quite rigid. She's not bouncing you around anymore. As you can see, I'm standing on part of the deck. And it's comfy. Right, we've arrived. This is Mulvra. I've dropped the hook. This will give me a spot of lunch I'll have here before I set off back. I'll set off back before low water comes, and then that way I'm heading back while there's still a little bit of water coming at me. Not too shabby here. Quite nice. Just taking a look at the speed of that jet ski. God only knows how fast that's going. Straight into a heavy populated beach. Oh dearie me. I hope his brakes work. Not that jet skis have brakes, but I'm out of here. So I'm making my way back. I'm on 5.5 knots straight away because I'm on a nice reach with light airs, which is going to sail fairly quickly on a reach going back, because I've been pushing into it all the way. But now it's the easy sail going back. As long as the air doesn't back on me and stays exactly the same, I'm going to have a lovely run going back. So she's set up nice and easy and we're away. Now I'm pushing tide at the moment. I'm doing 5.5 knots because it hasn't quite got to the point of low water yet, which means there's still a little bit of ebb left, and then it'll get to low water, and then somewhere about Red Wharf Bay over there it'll start picking back up again and it'll start going with me, and then I might even see 6 knots. You never know. But this is how comfortable it is going the opposite way on a reach. It's completely different, isn't it? You can make 5.5 knots 2 different directions. Tea still tastes the same, no? The important things. We've got wind. We've got 5.5 knots nearly. But when you're ploughing into that wind, instead of having it on a reach like that, it makes a hell of a difference to the way the boat heels and the waves and the white water and everything else. The adrenaline and the excitement, and the speed's up over 6 knots now because we've got 15 knots of wind. That's pretty decent, isn't it? Because it's about flat water now. Flat water. It's about slack water now. And look at that. We're getting even more. So if it's slack water, well, how fast are we going? I'm sorry, will somebody remind me again? What boat are we on? Is this still Swallow? Well, the results of what I've done in the winter are really good and really well worth doing. It's always nice to have a nice clean bottom and a bottom that's not full of holes. That's fairly good for a reach in slack water. I know we've got a fair bit of wind on the beam, and it is on the beam, and that's probably my fastest point of sail, but we're not overheeled at all. My silent transom isn't so silent either. Let's go to the bow and have a look what it looks like from there, if it looks this exciting from here. And we're not let down, are we? No, because it looks just as exciting from the bow. Wow, that last wave filled my shoe. I know it's been quite a good day when you got sunshine in your wake. I don't know what it is about sunshine in your wake, but it feels like the right way to be going at the end of the day. Although it's not really the end of the day yet because there's plenty of sunlight left. It's still sort of chasing down the day. The wind's a little bit more behind me now, so the boat's stood up a lot more, making a lot less white water. She does when she stands up a lot more, evens things out. But we're not goose winged. We've still got it a little bit on the beam. I don't know how much. That much. It's a broad reach, and it's down to 12 knots. But then we're doing a bit through the water, so it's still about 17 knots, I think, 18 knots. Although it doesn't look like on the water anymore, does it? Ah, it's because the wind and the tide are going in the same direction. Mellowed the sea a little bit. Looks very mellow when you look at it like that. And it's going a little bit as well. Maximum today we've got is a knot of tide with us. So anything that you see figure wise, knock it off. Now I did see before when I was really motoring, I went below and I never had the camera and I did see 8 knots, which means that Swallow got up to about 7 knots on that broad reach, which is the fastest I think she's ever done in her life, entire life, on a broad reach. So I think that's the world record for Swallow got set today. So it was well worth going out for a little day sail to see what I could learn, and I think I learned quite a bit. The main thing I actually think I've learned today is she likes a bit of weather helm. She doesn't want a straight helm. She wants a bit of weather helm on it and a bit more pressure in the sails, and she'll deliver a bit more performance. And she has delivered good performance today, so I'm really happy with the way she's acted. Well, we're about an hour now, an hour after low water, and I think we're moving a little bit too quick, so there's not going to be a lot of water when I get to Conway at this rate, because I'm halfway there now, because Puffin's here. We're not too far after Puffin, about 4 miles, maybe 5 miles. I'll get to Conway Voyage, and at this speed it won't take too long, so there's not going to be a lot of water to get in on. Well, we've flown past Puffin now, and we're still flying, and we're on the last leg towards the fairway, boy, and we're going to get there far, far, far too early. And that's a problem that I'd like to have, that I've not had before. So now I've got it, arriving too soon. That don't happen very often, does it? I can see there's a yacht ahead of me, or two. One with sails down, one with sails up. The one with sails up sailing back and forth, and obviously he's waiting for a bit more water to get in. And the other one's obviously dropped his hook and is just sitting there and waiting for a bit more water to get in. But I'm quite lucky as well because I've got shallow draft. So maybe when I get there I'll get brave enough and just go screaming straight in anyway. The wind has dropped a little bit now, but we've still got good power on. Very good power compared with what we would normally have. The sea's still quite flat, so it keeps us going quite smoothly and quickly. What a pleasing day today has been out at sail. Absolutely amazing. Taught myself stuff, like I said when I went out. I want to go and learn something. Definitely learned something today. Definitely learned I can push a bit more out of the boat if I want to. And also learned to want a little bit more weather helm going to windward, put a bit more pressure on the sails, and she'll power up a little bit more. Well, here we are, sails down, done the trip, creeping in now under Genoa alone. There's a couple of boats about, some of them hanging outside, still don't want to come in yet. A couple anchored ahead of me. But I'll just slip through the gap hopefully, and we're an hour and a half past now, so we've got an hour and a half of water underneath us. So it's on the lift. So while it's rising, it's a rising tide. And I've only got the Genoa to slip away. I'm going to slip in there past them two boats. And banks are all well up when I get in. But what a pleasant experience today's been. So I'll just creep in the last of the way, and hopefully I'll make it all the way to my mooring. And I'll creep in with this chap. So until next time, don't forget just about how much power we've pushed out of Swallow today. Well worth a good day sail. Okay, bon voyage.